sorry about the lighting because it's evening, but I just wanted to show you how we're going to start the body. So I'm going to show you everything on my table, but just to give you an idea on the body. So here I have my sleeve and I finished it, I stopped making it where when it reached the desired place on my armpit. It's not like completely, I still have, as you can see, a few more centimeters here. I don't want it like super tight. I don't like it when, you know, sweaters go into your armpit. And things do stretch out like a little bit when everything is made. So yeah, but basically what we're going to do is we're going to start the body from here. So here I have all my increases on this top line, and I'm going to show you how to chain the foundation chain for the body starting here. So we'll do this now and you can see the stitches and everything, but I just wanted to show you what you want to look for when it's on your body. So I have here my other sleeve and it's the same thing. I made sure that I have exactly the same number of stitches in both my sleeves. You want them to be identical, ideally. And yeah, so it fits really nice because I have total control, and I tried on as I made the sweater, the sleeves. So it has a really good fit. And this is the top of the sleeve where all the increases are, and we're going to start the body from here. So that's what I'm going to show you now. You want to try on your sweater, make sure the sleeves are as long as you want them to be. You should also have a pretty good idea of the gauge now, and then you can calculate, measure the gauge and calculate how long you want your sweater to be and chain that number. I'm of course going to guesstimate it because that's just how I do stuff, but you don't have to. You can have a good, accurate assessment of how many chains you need for the desired length. So you can make it more cropped, you can make it a tunic, you can make it go down to your knees. Yeah, the only thing you want your chain to be is to have an even number of stitches, but I'll show you all of that. So think how you want your sweater to look, and I'm going to show you how to start working on the body. So I have here my two sleeves, and I'm gonna put one to the side, and we're going to work on one of them. At this point, everything is still identical. What you will need is a few stitch markers for this step, just to make things easier for us. And as I said, we're going to start, so when it's on your body, it's going to be like this. So this will be the top where the all the increases are. And you see it's not like a perfectly straight line. That's totally okay. Don't worry about that. As long as it looks good and fits nicely, that's all that matters. And here we'll start building the body of the sweater. So I'm thinking I'm going to do mine in between length, not too cropped, not too long, just like a nice, that it goes like a little bit under my waist. So just to give you an idea, my sweater is 45, my sleeve is 45 centimeters long, and at the kind of widest point it is 17 centimeters, and I have 43 stitches. So I started with 29, I did 7 increases. Every increase is 2 more stitches, so that means I added 14 stitches, 29 to 43. And what I did was I went and stopped here, so at the opposite side of my increases, at what will be the armpit area. And what I'm going to do is, so you want to make sure that you are, I'll zoom you in, so you want to make sure that you stop on a single crochet. So as you can see here, my last stitch is a double crochet. So I'm going to frog it. And what you want to do is you want to put a stitch marker in this last single crochet and another stitch marker in the double crochet below it. So here's my double crochet and here's my single. And this will just help me identify things when I come back to this stitch, because from now on we're going to be working back and forth, basically going from the bottom of our sweater up to the sleeve, around the other side, and yeah, like that. It'll be clearer when we start working on it. So all we have to do now is chain a foundation chain for our sweater body. And you want to chain the number of stitches that you want, and it needs to be now, till now we've worked with an odd number of stitches because we were working in spiral. From now on, until the end of the sweater, we're going to work with even numbers because we're working back and forth, not in the round. So you want to chain an even number. And I'm just going to, what I do find a bit difficult with the stitch count is counting stitches and rows. The yarn helps me to count the rows because of the color changes. But let's take a look. I have here 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. About 13 stitches in 10 centimeters. And if I want, you can measure from your armpit down. I want, first of all, write everything. If you can, just write it. So my gauge here is around 13 stitches for 10 centimeters. And because we're working lengthwise, that's the measurement I need to determine how long my sweater is going to be. So if I want it to be about, let's say 30 centimeters, and we're going to add ribbing, so 30 centimeters from my underarm seam to my waist, I'm going to need 13 times 3, that's 39. So I'm going to chain 40 chains because I need 40 chains for the body. And I'm going to write it down. 40 chains for the body, and that's what I'm going to do. You don't have to measure, you can just kind of guesstimate it or do a few rows and see how it fits if that's what you prefer. I'm going to chain 40. And I like, because I get very distracted, I like to mark my chains every 10 or 20 stitches, just so I don't have to worry that I miss anything. By the way, at this point, if you've finished both your sleeves, you can remove the stitch markers that mark the increases. You don't need them anymore. And 40. And the last one, the last stitch, you want to mark the last chain, sorry. You want to put a stitch marker in the last chain just to make it easier to recognize this. And now we're going to work on the first row of the body. So just like we did in the swatch, this is how we're working now. Every row, we're going to start with a turning chain. So every row ends or begins, depending how you look at it, with a turning chain. And now we're going to work in pattern. So we're going to single crochet in the first chain, which is the one, our last chain, the one we have the stitch marker in. Double crochet in the next one. Single crochet in the next chain and double crochet. And continue in pattern until we reach the end of our foundation chain, and I will meet you there. Okay, I'm at the end of my chain. This is how it's looking. It's kind of easy to recognize the foundation chain and my stitches. This is how it's looking. And now I have one chain left, so I'm going to put the last stitch, because it's an even number of stitches. My last stitch on my chain is a double crochet. And now we're going to continue working on the sleeve. So because we marked everything, it's very easy to see. So we want the underarm to be nice and tight without any holes. So what we're going to do is, the way we're going to connect this part with our sleeve is we're going to do a slip stitch into our double crochet. Remember, we marked the single crochet here and the double crochet below it, and we're going to put a slip stitch into that double crochet. And this, you know, slip stitch is just like the smallest, tightest stitch, and it's going to give us a nice closed join. And we're going to just continue in pattern around the sleeve. So just make sure you're not going back. Here it's very easy to see because my yarn was orange here. So don't go back on this side. Make sure you're continuing on the right side. And just like before, my next stitch here is a single crochet. So I'm going to put a double in it. And we're going to continue working our sleeve, which will soon become just, you know, part of the body. It's going to be just like the top of the body, the shoulder area. We're going to continue working on it all around until we come back here, and I will meet you here. Okay, so here I am. I went around my sleeve and I'm back here, and this is the single crochet that we marked at the beginning of our foundation chain. And as usual, I'm just going to put a double crochet in it. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to work from the other side of our body's foundation chain. So I know this seems a little bit confusing, but once you do a few rows, you will totally understand what is happening, and everything will become much, much easier to understand. So what you want to look at is to kind of make sure that you're putting a single crochet where it needs to go and a double where that needs to go. And it's very easy to recognize because the single crochet is just a bit smaller. So we ended this row, the foundation chain, we ended it with a double crochet, and that means that I'm going to put a single crochet right above it. So I'm just going into that foundation chain and I'm putting a single crochet. Now the next stitch, you can see it's smaller. This is my double crochet here. This here is my double crochet, and then next to it there's a smaller stitch, my single crochet, and again next to it a larger stitch, and then a smaller stitch. There's a bit more space above it between the foundation chain and that single crochet, and that's where we're going to put, correct, a double crochet, and this will create a very nice looking fabric. So work slowly. Pay attention and make sure that you put the right stitch in the right place. but we just continue in pattern, working into that foundation chain from the other side. And I'm going to remove this just so I can get into that stitch. I may keep my stitch markers just to remind me how many stitches I have, so I may keep the ones that mark the 20 mark. And a single crochet. Again, next one is a smaller stitch. It has a little bit more space above it, so that means I need to put a double crochet. We're just working into the remainder of the foundation chain. So I'm going to continue working until I reach the end of my row, and then I'm going to show you how to turn and work the other way. Okay, I'm at the end of my row, and if you remember when we did the swatch, every row ends with a double crochet, and now I'm working into my last stitch here, a double crochet. And this is going to be the bottom of our sweater. So we're not working in the round, we're working back and forth. And basically what we're going to do is, this is the side of our sweater. We're going to go back up here, around the sleeve, and then down here. Again, after a few rows, it'll be much, much clearer. But what's important here is that this is a straight edge. So we have to turn and go back the other side. And the way we do that is with a turning chain, and we turn our work. So we're not working in a spiral anymore. We're working back and forth. Okay, here I am. Now I'm actually working from the other side, from the wrong side. Here I have my slip stitch with a double crochet before it and a double crochet after it. And I'm just going to treat it like it's a single crochet in my pattern. So into that double before, I'm going to put single crochet, and into my slip stitch, I can now remove my stitch marker. I'm going to put a double crochet just as if it was a single crochet. Again, the reason I did a slip stitch is to have a very seamless, without any holes, and you'll see as we continue to crochet that there's nothing. It's going to look completely seamless, which I love. Okay, so I wanted to show you how this looks on the body so that you have, sorry about the mess, it is what it is. So you have maybe it helps understanding the construction. So this is how it's looking. See this, the part that we added is supposed to go underneath your arm and will eventually become the side of the sweater. And the way we work from this point on is from the bottom, we go up, around, like doing again all the stitches of the sleeve, and back down, turn, go up, around, and go down. So we're working back and forth. We're no longer working in the round. You want to keep that in mind when you're here at the edge. We just turn and go back. You would do the row. I'm here at the end of my row. Gonna go back here, go around the sleeve, and go back down from the other side of this piece. And gradually it will obviously grow thicker, and then it'll be much, much easier to see and understand. Yeah, what you want to figure out for this side part is just how long you want your sweater to be. But yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can go back to the video where I show you the different sweaters that I made to give you maybe some ideas. All up to you. That's the great thing. You can make what you love. Okay, so we're going to do another row. After my last double crochet, I chained one and turn your work. And again, same thing all the time now. You start with a single and then a double crochet. Here is our sleeve. This is our foundation chain. And then this is how we worked on it. You can see the lines. So it keeps growing going up, down the other side, turning, going up again. I hope this is clear. If not, leave me a message. But as you start working at it, after a few rows, you know, you can try it on and it'll be very clear. Okay, so just checking in. Sorry you can't see my face, but yeah, I want to show you the sweater. So this is where I'm at with the cookie yarn. And you can see I like to leave the stitch marker that I marked the end of the chain that we did here. I like to leave it so it gives me a good indication of where the middle is. And then I can have a good idea of when to stop. And I'm going to stop at this point. I want kind of, I think, a tight or relatively tight neckline here. So I'm going to stop here, and then I'm going to start in the next part of the cowl to work on the back panels. But this is where you want to stop. You want to stop when you're at the point, try your sweater on and see where it is here, and kind of make sure that it's nicely situated, also that your hand is down. Everything will be a bit more kind of fitted when we connect the parts, so take that under consideration, that if it's now sitting here, probably when we connect the parts it's going to be a little bit higher because, you know, it'll just be connected to the other side. So this is where I'm at, and I'm going to stop working like all the way around from the bottom up, back to this side and back, and I'm just going to start the back panels. But this is the point here, is where you want to decide when to stop. If you want a more open neckline, then stop sooner. And if you want it to be tighter, then continue to work a few more rows. Now the other version that I'm doing, you can see it's a little bit shorter. I have a different plan for it, which I haven't tried before, so we'll see how that works. But I just wanted to show you. So here are my stitch markers. And it's still obviously a work in progress. And I think I will continue for a few more rows, and then I'll start working on the back. But this is what you want to do. This is what you are looking for. You want to put it on, make sure it's nicely on you, like don't let it just fall, and see where it is on your shoulder. And think about the neckline that you want. I'm going to show you how to do decreases for the neckline. So we'll do that. But you can also do more of a straight line. It's all about your preferences and experiments. But this is where I'm at. So I'm going to do the other sleeve. I'm going to chain the same number of chain and do the same number of rows. And then we will start the back panel. Okay, so this is the end of part 3. You want to end this part with a right side row. I forgot to mention it. So finish it with a right side row where you want your neck opening to begin, and you want to see that on your shoulder line. And I'll see you in the next part. Make sure both of your halves are identical. From now on, they're not going to be, but until this point, they need to be identical. So count your stitches and just make sure, double check that you're working with the same exact numbers. I will see you soon for the back panels, part 4 of the cowl.